Or
You know what? I was up here earlier and I shut it off on there and it's not shutting it off. Like I exited, shut down. Do you want to leave? Are you sure? Yes. Nope, I did it like 3 times. And because when I came up here, they were on. Some of them were shut off down here, so I made sure the ones I needed were on. But on that little black thing, when I showered it off.
oh, you know what? Because when I turned it on, I didn't turn the remote section back on. Oh, because your computer.
Thanks.
Say. That didn't seem. Kind of is the things I want.
You want to?
I'll go after. His looks pretty, no, his looks pretty fancy.
Yeah, for the tunnel. Told me all about it.
Sure.
You gave it to him, like you gave him a picture of it? Okay, so he's got them. In a perfect world, as close to the tunnel as possible. We want to run from that side of the room. We want to run the cables to the other side, but it has to go through the tunnel. That makes sense. I don't think we have any. There we go. Oh, tree thing. That's existing? Right, but this is the existing way the tunnel is that you have it set up now. Yeah, I think I don't really have a preference for it other than we got to be able to cable through the tunnel and we want to be able to line up with the other data closets as simple as possible. I'm good with whatever. Because the data closets, we're going to run fiber, so there's no length issues as far as that goes. We just want to or tons of holes through the floor, either of those. Yeah, usually they're like the rebars and all that stuff. Yeah.
Or 5 feet apart.
Yeah.
That's right. So, hit them.
Or
Or they hit one top.
oh,
Just right
in the
building.
You don't think it's your need?
oh, a nice pin just to be laying there.
Planning to. Oh, what else do you?
I discontinued my stuff from them. Yeah, I used to get stuff from them, but none of it helps.
Okay.
Did you close yours out, Megan? Or- Yeah.
Who left this fork again?
Oh, because all I have is connecting. It was like it connected before, but then now it's back to connecting.
Oh, over there. Barry's in my space.
Oh, just trying to help.
Could you come help me out? Barry's in my. If we have, any people that actually clean.
He raised.
Yeah.
Well, they're. Well, that's
Stand
our
over here.
buildings and grounds guy right there.
Other side.
That guy. Yeah.
Are you sure? Because I know sometimes you started the meeting.
He wants me to. Okay, can I borrow a pen, please?
Yeah, there's a couple laying here.
Thank you.
I don't know. Let me try to relaunch it. I don't have to come here.
He's a big dog over there.
Yeah, well, that's what it did, and then it kicked it out a minute ago.
I was not.
Why is it weird? Look at this.
Something or. Oh golly, that's. Now it worked. I'm gonna tilt it to the side.
Just drop it on the floor. That's what I do.
Give it a
Oh,
like
now it's
snap.
better.
Just
Here. Yeah, we got it.
My mark.
Everett, here.
Good, how are you? Yes, you know.
Hey, we're granted.
Need these cans.
Happened. I don't know. I am.
Information questionable. Except daytime or night?
Come on. Full battery.
Either one's fine.
Yes. Come to the realization that when I can't get on, then I turn it completely off and back on. Every once in a while it.
Everyone's having problems just
I will.
there.
send one.
Couldn't get it to turn on.
Huh.
I might look at it today when you got here.
Okay. Thanks.
Thought he would come early, but
Here you go, Megan.
I guess that's not
Perfect.
right.
I think that's it, right? Huh?
I will get it.
So are we going with 2 hour limit on the computers?
Not tonight.
Yeah. Saying the computers are gonna die at 2 hours?
It depends on how lengthy current.
We're
calendar,
gonna-
So
Yeah, I think we'll be okay.
I don't think it should be too terrible.
No, and everybody's gonna wanna get out to watch the Bucks game.
What time?
8. And I want out at 7 because I wanna watch it.
That's pushing it.
Signed on yet?
To feed the hummingbirds. Yeah, I just gave it to Megan.
Yeah, Megan, look at that, huh?
Donna beats me, but
She's member guest.
Yeah, but there's 3 of them.
I don't have mine anymore. Let's see. Okay. WCA Basic Conference, WCA member county, spouse guest, conference registration and spouse guest tour fee. Is she going on the tour? Basic conference registration. Okay, if she's not doing the other things, then she's down here, the spouse guest basic conference registration only. I'll bring my tablet and she can read all those Irish,
Hello.
What is that?
services. What do you mean? Hey Pat, were you going to the WCA conference? It's September 26th through the 28th.
Oh, services if you need handicap service.
Hopefully not.
You know I mean? You're not going?
I don't know. I give
My
up.
wife.
Well, you gotta know pretty
Yeah.
soon. We gotta register.
She has my
And
deepest
Megan
sympathy.
has one next week.
I'll tell her you said
Oh, I
that.
said
There's
that.
a room for
You
you.
tell her I said. Huh?
Megan has we have one extra room.
Yeah,
for
she was
five.
on the board. Yeah.
Oh,
What
exactly what the dates again? What?
Swimming. But I heard this or anything. 2 years saying, can't do that. Boom, they did it.
next we do
Yes.
together. So
My
that's-
computer's dead. I'm all done. Am I?
You're at, that's it. See ya. You might as well just go home.
I'm gonna tell him that when he comes in. Oh, my computer's all dead. Throw my hands up.
Oh, don't get him going already.
I'm gonna throw my hands up.
Yeah, a good idea.
Right away, gotta get them wound up, don't you?
Not Mark,
could
you
make it
wouldn't do
work.
that.
Can't even let the guy sit down for 5 minutes and get it turned on at least.
Oh, you did when you were going to get.
I'm off. So that
Mine home this time. Frank in the last.
I get on the
problem.
really upset on my tablet for the
I got
council.
that one. After the. Next thing you know
You'd
about
have
it,
Brett,
My
right?
favorite
4 days
effort
ago.
was I-
Campaign
for this
for
week.
Good luck.
the shots, promoting the type of
I'm wondering if it's.
Pat will, I know.
Kathy, anything?
I have-
Okay, Mark will.
Yeah, Debbie
Fake.
Pavala is working on it, try to get local people, especially
Well, I hope I can
people
vote.
in power.
That's the-
If not, I can
Convince
always
other
look in.
people to consider doing the vaccine. We are only at.
What do you give me thumbs up for?
which we're. the
Tell me
second
later.
to lowest in the
Thursday.
county. We gotta raise that or we're gonna.
Tell me later.
You're going to,
I have
you're
four
gonna
kids.
have your picture taken afterwards. Any of the board members that have had the COVID shot and want to endorse having it for the Commission on Aging will get a picture afterwards.
I didn't dress for that.
Okay. We'll hide you in the back row.
But I would appreciate it
Yes.
because, that would.
Pat will do it, right, Pat?
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Hey, Mary,
Absolutely.
did you still not get those emails to go through?
I sent that one back to you. Did you get it?
And I saw it, it looked like it got rejected again.
No,
I'll make one more change and release everything.
Weird.
I don't know what it's doing. Gotta get a hold of my window.
Yeah, I needed to, I had to
There
actually
you are,
fax
ma'am.
it to them.
I'll make the change tonight. Can you try
Okay,
again
I'll
tomorrow?
try in the morning.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
John, are you vaccinated? After the board meeting, maybe let's take a picture, for Commission on Aging, they want everybody to.
Hey, Pat.
I don't.
Scarf. Isn't she? She went around into this little basket. So I
Do I
put it
what?
on.
Aw.
No, I don't. I had to take her to Berlin to get something first. We flew down there and flew back and I forgot it when I got it.
I'll just have to get your vote from you and then just be here. And if you want
Huh?
to make any motions, check, you'll just have to raise your hand.
The beard?
No,
Oh, okay.
I identify as a vaccinated.
She's still not scarred.
Nope, my computer's dead.
So cute.
Probably will
On
be.
Jada.
Way to go. Way to go.
don't really care.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Want to recognize me?
Huh?
Did you come in and get a
I'll just take my per diem, sit here and take a little
Oh, yeah,
nap.
we do. What's doing my buddy?
Stuff and then. I'll
Working the
bring-
hell out of me. I ain't used to that shoveling and raking all day long.
I don't know.
Brandon,
He kind of hired me under false
bring
pretenses.
my ID with you?
I could hold it.
He needed an operator. He doesn't say the operator shovel and rake.
Oh, you
Uh,
went to
what?
Montana, didn't you?
No, Niagara Falls.
I could have told you.
I ain't married to him.
First week of August.
I gotta stay at least a couple weeks yet. He got me 2 t-shirts and a hoodie. Plumbing on, of
Capers.
course.
I could change
Walk
it.
right down by the phone.
Neat.
So what do you gotta do to get onto that? Just turn it on?
You gotta go to that app and hit that app.
Got 4, oh, there we go.
See if they'll.
Might make it by the time we start.
It's beautiful.
All the way up here.
But, I mean, that's.
Yeah, are they still, who's not
Okay,
connected?
now,
That was my thought.
who knows?
I know.
Oh, okay.
It's many of them.
Weather's getting. Fingers don't
Valid username.
work like they should.
So I think that one's gonna come
All right,
sooner
now
or
what
later.
time is it?
Go to that app.
I'll watch for it.
Just hit connect.
So far, so good.
Bam.
Yeah.
Slide this down towards Larry's
You
spot.
betcha. How's that for a shot?
Oh,
Look at that.
just like downtown,
Bam.
just like
You're in.
downtown. Or over.
I think that's a good idea. We probably should do as well, you know, of this board or.
I'm gonna have this. Check on there.
I was up. Please.
How are things at Portland?
Regular stuff. Do it by minute. Second. Really?
Yeah, it fixed itself. Believe it or not.
Ready?
Today.
It's just logging in.
Let me know.
Oh, you gotta log in.
Sweet. Still get this.
You're in, Larry. You're in.
Yeah.
Just don't push the wrong buttons.
Is that everybody?
Yeah, don't touch anything else.
Ready?
So,
Okay, I will call the meeting to order of Waushara County Board of Supervisors. This is a regular monthly meeting being held on Tuesday, July 20th, 2021. Megan will, talk for us. Okay, I will ask you to stand for silent prayer and pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Motion to approve the agenda is printed. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bonfiglio and a second by Jarvis. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in, are you having trouble again, Bob?
My battery's going dead again.
there's a cord there somewhere.
All in favor?
I.
Opposed, same sign.
That's it.
All right, next we will, I would like a motion to approve the minutes of the June 15th, 2021 monthly meeting. Motion by Mr. Bonfiglio. Second by Mr. Lauer. Any questions or comments? None, all in favor?
I,
All right.
Opposed, same sign. I don't believe we had anyone sign in for public comments. Go to unfinished business and a discussion and possible motion action item on rescinding the telecommuting policy. I would like the board to look at this again. I believe it's time for everyone to come back to work. We have some that can't work from home, so I would like to see everyone working from the courthouse now. Do we have any discussion or a motion? Pat, I'm sorry. Pat,
Somebody from one of the department heads were going to give us some information about how many employees were using this, and I would like to hear that information, I
Okay.
guess.
The department heads did talk about it. Again, I just want to reiterate, this policy is not a COVID policy. This policy was recommended by the Retention and Recruitment Committee to personnel to try to be a tool for department heads to use to recruit and retain talent. So this was never about COVID. But that being said, right now, there are only a couple of departments that are using it. Human Services and the ADRC have been using it, are still using it at this time. They are able to track what work is being done. They are finding that the employees are being really productive. We have one person who's a limited term employee, and we are actually able to hire that person to do the project because we were able to offer to be done from home. So I understand what you're saying, that people should work from the county, and if that's what you believe, that's fine. I'm just gonna say, in my opinion, I think you are limiting our ability to attract certain personnel if our hands are completely tied. I think that you have good department heads. You should trust them to run their departments and make sure that people that we employ are doing the jobs that we can, whether it's here or it's remotely. So I would ask you really to think twice about doing this and, not rescinding it and leaving this as a tool for us, because we are having a hard time recruiting people.
Would it be appropriate for the board to, and this, at least, even if we did not rescind it, but that department heads realize that as far as the board was concerned, we'd really like, in most circumstances, for them to work from the courthouse when possible? I mean, could that be
Yeah,
an understanding? I think that's what the county board chair would like.
I think that that's fine to have an understanding. Right now, we are having a hard time recruiting people. This was an additional tool for us. It's not going to work in every department. It might not even work long-term in some departments, but it might get us some short-term employees to do certain projects. I just don't want to tie our hands.
I read through this today, and I do believe too that it is quite limited to who can use it. And if people do, if their job is to deal with the public, they are expected to be here. And it seemed like it was worded quite well as far as I'm concerned. It was quite limited, and I can't see it being used an awful lot. So if you do need it for recruiting, it probably is not that bad of a policy to keep.
Brandon?
Definitely work for 6%.
You if you're at 6%.
This is social butterfly, Productivity is a lot.
Anyone else?
Everett.
What about the other counties around us?
The one that I've talked to is Green Lake, and he said no. So. That's. I don't think Calumet is allowing him to.
I do believe the way it's written, it is quite limited as to who can work from home. I mean, I don't think like we're gonna have an onslaught of people working from home with it. I think it'll just be if it's, you know, like you said, if the position will allow it, and that's the only way we can get that kind of talent. So
Larry,
I can hear Everett's question and the answer.
Larry, do you, or I mean, Everett, do you want to repeat?
I
your
asked if
question?
Donna knew any other counties that, I'm sorry, Larry. I asked if Donna knew of any other counties where they, were allowed to work from home.
All right.
And your answer was?
Oh, my answer was I've spoken to the gentleman from Green Lake and they are not, and I believe Calumet is not either. But those are the only ones I've spoken to so far.
But I guess my question was what initially, when we left this last month, they were going to give us some numbers of how many people. Do you have any idea? I mean, is it 5, 10,
Currently, there are
100?
9 people working from home in 2 different departments, plus the site managers, because our meal sites are still closed and we're having them do calls to our participants on a regular basis to make sure that they have some social contact, and they're doing that from home. So it's very limited at the moment. There was more when we were trying to limit the number of people working here in the courthouse, but right now it's about 9. And again, they have to have department head permission. It has to fit in the job. It's not an employee right. It's something that can be used.
All right, any other questions? Then I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Bonfiglio. Is there a second? Mr. Lauer has seconded it. All right. Are there any further questions?
Could you clarify what a yes or no vote would mean? Yes, leave it in place, no.
No is, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Are you ready for us to vote? Okay. All in favor of keeping the policy in place? Vote aye.
aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Me? Waddle and Kirschner. Next, then the policy will not be rescinded. Next, we'll go to new business and the county administrator's monthly report. Ms. Zowski.
Thank you. So we are in the middle of the budget process. Most of the wage payroll sheets have gone out to the departments. Most of the budget sheets have gone out to the departments. Sarah has all of the departments scheduled to meet with her and I in the first half of August to review all of the requests to try to put together a budget for you so that we can talk about preliminary stuff in September and October before the budget hearing in November. There were 16 applicants for the county administrator position. That's been narrowed down to 7. And the executive committee meets again next Monday to view the video submissions from those 7 applicants along with the consultants. And we don't have the exact times, but you should note that on August 5th, there will probably be a, either the 4th or the 5th, there will be a meet and greet time when the final applicants will be here to participate in a community event and to answer questions and to meet the county boards kind of thing before a final before they're, then they'll do interviews and there'll be a final recommendation hopefully for you at your August meeting. As soon as we have those times lined up, I will let you know so that you can make sure that if you're available and you want to come meet some of the candidates, you can. And last but not least, I'm having surgery on my eyes tomorrow. So I will not be available tomorrow. All the departments know that I won't be answering my phone or anything. The plan is if everything goes well, I'll be back in the office on Monday for court. So it's just an outpatient procedure and hopefully next time I see you, I'll be able to see better. So thank you.
Thank you, Ruth, and good luck. Okay, next we're going to have reports and presentations, and we'll start with the District Attorney's Office Annual Report.
Hi, everyone. I think most of you have heard me talk at some point, but my name is Matthew Lusink. I've been District Attorney in Waushara County since this January. I went to high school in Princeton, then undergrad at UW-Madison, law school at Georgetown. And prior to coming here, I was an assistant in Walworth County for several years, and I won the election in November. So
Because you're sharing it.
all right. So we have a, all right, we'll try this again. I have not done a PowerPoint presentation since I was in high school, so please bear with me. So we have 7 full-time staff in the district attorney's office. Myself, and then I have 2 assistant district attorneys. One is Dennis Ryan. He was an assistant in Sauk County before coming here in September of 2020. Brad Bowman is the other assistant district attorney, and he started this March. And then we have 2 paralegals, Al Lucchini and Jennifer Kern. Ms. Kern started also in March of this year. And then Donna Klowitter is our victim witness coordinator. She replaced Kathy Clement, who retired in December. She was with our office for 29 years. And then John Weismuller, who is our office's investigator. So you'll see probably a lot of new people associated with the office. Like I said, we didn't have any full-time assistants on staff for a lengthy period of time. And we did have turnover with one of our paralegals went to be the registrar and probate, and our victim witness coordinator retired. So our office has several responsibilities, and the main one is for prosecution of criminal offenses that occur within Waushara County. Most of those are going to be referred by the different police departments within the county, which is overwhelmingly the sheriff's department. We get, to a lesser extent, from the other villages as well. We also will get referrals from time to time from state agencies, the Department of Transportation, also the DNR, and the Department of, I believe it's Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. Usually those referrals are for home improvement contractors that had various violations with how they did their work. We also will handle special prosecutions from time to time, and when that comes up is going to be when usually it's one of the counties surrounding us. If their office has a conflict, they'll ask an attorney in another county to handle the case for them. We have one going on right now, a case in Portage County that I'm handling. And then we also handle ordinance violations, mostly for the county, but also do have some municipalities that are sending us ordinance violations as well to handle. Wild Rose last year elected to have our office handle OWIs OWI first offenses because they are not criminal. And I think the reason they did that was because for the few cases that actually go to trial, they would prefer to have someone more experienced doing those cases. We also will provide legal advice to law enforcement, and it's specific legal advice. It's going to be targeted towards mostly Fourth Amendment issues, whether or not to get a search warrant, the types of crimes to refer up to our office. And another important thing that we do is we do participate in our treatment court program. We usually have treatment court every single week that consists of a staffing where we discuss issues with the participants that occurred during the previous week, and then we have an open treatment court session. Next page. All right, so I'm highlighting a couple of trends here. Some of these I'm going to have actual pages for, but we did see a dip in the amount of cases filed in 2020, and that may have gone hand in hand with the pandemic. Obviously, there was a portion of time during 2020 where there was a stay-at-home order in place, and you have less people out on the road, out in public. Going to be, and businesses are closed. You got less people getting into bar fights. You got less OWIs. So that's part of it. The other part of it is what also happened with our office in particular in 2020. And I'll just go over it briefly. But I think as most of you know, District Attorney Anderson left at the end of 2019 to go to the U.S. Attorney's Office. And then our assistant with the office left in January of 2020. So we had a lengthy period of time where we had either special prosecutors here. We did have a district attorney here for about I would say an 8-week period, and then she was no longer in the office. So that may have also played a role in why we had less cases filed in 2020. As I will note, we are off to a busier start in 2021. I think part of that is from being fully staffed. That plays a role in it. We have a lot of jury trials that are set during the rest of this year. And I'll also talk about, we have quite a few more possession of methamphetamine cases that we've charged out this year so far. I don't have a page for this, but I've seen, just personally looking at some of the cases that we've filed, there has been an increase in some of the violent crimes that we've had. There's been several cases that have been charged out of our office that have involved the use of either firearms or other dangerous weapons. Whether or not that's also due to the pandemic, I really can't say. It's possible, but I really don't know. And obviously, as I explained to you earlier, we have a lot of new staff members. So it's been kind of an experience, a lot of new people in the office, getting them to all adjust to each other and how things are done here. Okay, so this just talks about the total, and this is adult criminal cases that have been filed the last couple of years. This involves felony cases, and then criminal misdemeanor and criminal traffic cases. So 2018 was the high year. There were over 900 filed. That was basically a peak. It was a lot higher than the previous years. And even in 2019, before the pandemic and before all the turnover in the office, it went down significantly from that. It was only at 716. And as you can see, we did have that drop off in 2020. To date, and this is as of this morning, we have a total of 377 total cases filed. So we're definitely on track. If the rest of this year goes as the way that it's gone up to now, we'll definitely go well past what we filed in 2020, and we'll probably be around that 2019 total again. This focuses on the felony case files. And the reason I highlight these is because our felony case files, they typically require more work. There's an evidentiary proceeding called a preliminary hearing that's present in a felony case, which isn't even present in misdemeanor cases. It's basically kind of like a mini trial that you have to have unless the defendant decides they don't want to have it. So again, 2018 was a very high year, but there was not a ton of drop off in 2019. And even in 2020, that number was still fairly high. I think the drop off in 2020 was mainly with how misdemeanors were charged out. So that may have been from just the philosophy of the previous district attorney and some of the special prosecutors with the office. So to date, we have already filed 147 felony files, and I just put this number for comparison. Back in 2000, there were only 97 felony cases filed. So definitely, we have, in terms of felonies, we have a lot more than we did even 20 years ago. So I wanted to highlight the drug cases in the county. Obviously, I take an active role, our judge takes an active role in our treatment court. But the big increase has really been with possession of methamphetamine cases. We had 17 that we filed that are either possession cases or they delivered methamphetamine. Only 17 in 2020. Well, we've already charged out 29 this year. And I think part of the reason for that is there's always going to be, and this is even from my experience when I was an assistant, there are certain drugs that are going to be, for lack of a better word, popular among drug users at a given time. And some years it's going to be that heroin is the popular drug. Some years it's cocaine, but now it's methamphetamine. I think part of the reason is because methamphetamine is a lot cheaper to get your hands on than some of the other opioids that are available. It is also very, very dangerous to make. It can endanger a lot more people besides the person who is using it and making it, because the method, it's called the one pot method that's used to make methamphetamine. It's volatile and it can explode. When I was an assistant, we had an incident where that happened, where it exploded at a hotel. It seriously injured the person that was making it. It's also very dangerous for law enforcement if they have to basically clean up a meth cook. That's why if they go in to clean it, usually they're wearing hazmat suits. So that is a concerning trend, I think, especially we're only a little bit more than halfway through the year and we've had a lot of those cases. Marijuana is probably the other prominent drug that gets charged out. Like I said, we had 99 total in 2020. Some of those are charged out as ordinances. Some are charged out criminally, it depends on the amount that they have and that person's criminal history. 56 so far in 2021. So I would say probably we're going to hit about the same amount this year as last year. I did want to note, though, that these different violations, they're not always independent of each other. Quite often, if someone gets busted with one drug, they've got another type of drug on their person as well. Or if they're committing like a different type of crime, they also may have drugs with them. Especially people get arrested for an OWI, they'll also have drugs on their person. We had a case that we charged out where a person was under suspicion for a burglary, and we charged that out, but when they went to arrest him, he also had drugs on him, so he got charged with that as well. Heroin, we have had hardly any cases lately with that, and it's like I said, there's going to be times where drugs are very popular with the users, and then another drug takes its place, and it kind of goes, it's kind of a vicious circle, because there are drugs that weren't as popular a few years ago and then make a comeback. It really does depend on where. And impaired driving cases that's really another one of the big things that our office handles. And my philosophy is to be aggressive with OWI cases. And anyone that has been to a sentencing where there's either been a homicide or a serious injury, I think can understand that. So back in 2020, we had 161 that went through our office. We've had 109 so far in 2021, but a lot of OWI first offenses don't even come to our office, because they only come to our office if the person enters a not guilty plea at their hearing. Because it's not criminal, they don't even have to go to court. They can just be defaulted at their initial appearance, and we wouldn't even see that. So just because we have those numbers there, it's not necessarily telling the whole story. This year, though, what I've noticed when I was looking through the different type OWIs that we have had, we've seen more multiple offense OWIs. And I'm not sure why that's happening this year as opposed to last year. There's not a particular reason for it. I just want to point out, we did have a case that came down from the Court of Appeals this year as well. And it basically says that you can't, when deciding what number offense an OWI is, you can't use prior refusals to submit, which you used to be able to. The only reason I point that out for you is that that has led to law enforcement having to do more work, because now our position is that if a person refuses, even if it's their first offense OWI, they still need to get a warrant to get their blood, because we can no longer have that refusal to fall back on. So we need to have the blood sample. So that's led to more work for law enforcement, more work for the judge, because he has to swear out the search warrants as well. And I just want to talk about drug driving cases as well, because it is getting more and more common. We had, and I can't give you the most exact numbers on these because there are cases that involve prescription drugs. Without looking at every single OWI case that I have and figuring out does it involve prescription drugs or not, I can't give you a number on that. But I can tell you what numbers have involved what's called a restricted controlled substance. And that is, could be heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine, and then the active ingredient in marijuana, which is called delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinols. So we had 13 involving those in 2020. We've had 5 so far, but this is the thing I have to point out. We've been faced with a very lengthy backlog from the labs that test people's blood for the presence of drugs. So we've been waiting about 6 months. So these 5 that we've had so far in 2021, the actual arrest happened probably back in January or February. So that number is going to go up as we go through here. And I think with all the prescription drugs are out, this is going to become more common, because a lot of people don't realize you can have a prescription for a drug, you can be taking it as you're supposed to, but if you're under the influence, whether or not you have a prescription for it, you can't drive. So it's going to become more and more common as we go along. So the other thing that's picked up this year has been jury trials. We only had one in 2020. That was I believe it was a violation of a restraining order case in the fall. There was a portion during 2020 where we obviously didn't have any jury trials at all, because there's 3 months that we couldn't have in-person court appearances. And then even when we could, for various reasons, sometimes we just weren't having jury trials. So we only had the one. We've already had 6. We've actually have another one set to go this week as well. 4 of them have been felony cases and 2 have been traffic cases. And I give you those, but I would just say that I think all jury trials that we do are important to do. And it doesn't matter if it's a traffic case all the way up to a homicide. You know, that's why we have OWI trials, because there have been cases where people have been killed, and it's why we have domestic jury trials as well. So we've had those 6, and like I said, we've had numerous trials that are set throughout the rest of the year. I think we were just having this conversation this week, but I think we have over 50 days of the rest of the year where we have a jury trial set to be on. Not all of them are our office. The court does have a special prosecution that's coming up next month that's set to take a week, and they have some civil trials. But one of the things that we've had to do, because we just have so many that have been set, part of that's COVID, and I think part of it, frankly, is because I'm a new district attorney and people are basically trying to see, will I actually take cases to trial? So we've had cases stacked, and that means that we have days that we have more than one case set for jury trial. That's actually not too new for me, but it is pretty new for this court system to have to do it. So I think that's just a sign of how busy we are. Some of the really notable trials that we've had this year. April, we had a jury trial for first-degree child sexual assault. It was one that happened back at the beginning of the 2010s, only came to light about a year and a half ago, and he was brought to trial. The jury did find him guilty. He got a prison sentence of 25 years. Then we had a jury trial last month for an OWI 5th offense. Jury found her guilty. Sentencing is in. So just a couple of things that are coming up in the next couple of years. Now that we're having more things in person, that is giving us the ability to do more training. Obviously, for the attorneys, we have to have those trainings done regularly because we have a certain amount of continuing legal education hours that we have to do. But also for the paralegals in the office, one of the hopes is to make sure that they're trained in all the different areas that they could have to handle. So any one of them could fill in for another paralegal were they unavailable. And then the building project and the fact that we're getting a second judge, that is going to have the potential to make our office even busier. It is going to depend a little bit on who gets elected judge next year, and then how that judge, whoever gets elected, and Judge Dutcher decide how they're going to assign who handles what. And once we get the new courthouse, it's going to mean that we have 2 courtrooms that can seat jurors in. Right now, we can't do that, but that could hypothetically lead to situations where we're doing more than one jury trial at the same time. So it's just something for us to be in preparation for. So we'll be looking for ways to make us more efficient so we can deal with those issues as they come up. Anyone have any questions on what I've just presented, or questions in general about what we do?
Of all the cases that your office prosecutes, about what percentage have resulted you're happy with?
Well, and
Or-
happy is a subjective term. I mean, most of them result in outcomes that I'm satisfied with. I'm satisfied that probably over 90%. But you have to realize that most of our cases don't go to jury trial. It's well over 90% of our cases resolved by plea negotiations. And that's just, if it were a much higher percentage than that, we would be years behind. Obviously, I've lost jury trials in the past. I would say of the jury trials I've done in my career, about 4 and 5 that go to verdict wind up with guilty verdicts. So I think that's fairly decent number. And there are some that maybe it doesn't lead to the outcome that you would have liked, but it's the best under certain situations. So, I mean, say I'm happy with, even with cases like that sexual assault. Yes, I got a guilty verdict. Yes, he's going to prison for a very long time. He'll be in prison until I'm in my 50s. But on the other hand, a child still was sexually assaulted. He had that done to him and can't undo what happened there. So outcomes I'm satisfied with, I would say a fairly high outcome, but sometimes happy isn't the best term for it.
Do you have any other questions for Matt? Thank you very much, Matt. Very informative. Appreciate it. Okay, next we will go to our building project update. If you've been around the courthouse in the last couple months, I'm sure you've seen Kurt and John from Samuel's Group and Venture Architects, and they are going to give you all an update on the building project.
Good evening, everyone. John's got a presentation here that I'm going to hand off to him shortly. We actually have 2. One's going to go over the government center, and the other one is going to be going over Poisippi EMS. If you look on your agenda, the next item on the agenda is possible action for approval of these images that we're going to show you. And it doesn't mean that they aren't going to be tweaked, but what the approval is for me to take that to my group for an updated budget. So as you will recall, when we did the master plan, we had this this big nugget of not to exceed number, and there were multiple projects that were sprinkled in there. What happens over the course of the process is that those little pieces of the puzzle start to come together, and some of the pieces that were an individual piece start to become a part of another big piece. And that's kind of what's happened with the government center. There's some elements of the government center that have been brought into there, like building and grounds and some of those things. So what we need to do is we need to update a budget and bring you back a budget specifically for the government center, specifically a budget for the Poisippi EMS. and then look at that holistically in regards to the overall budget to say if we're over on one, are we going to make an adjustment on the other, or are we going to hold fast to what we had for individual budgets? So all we're looking for you to do here tonight is if you see the imagery tonight, if it's something that meets the personality of Waushara County, it looks like something that we've talked about, then we're just looking for a nod for you to say move forward, give us a budget update, and then report before we get too far down the road. So any questions on that before I turn it over to John? John's going to go over the Government Center with you, and then I've got a very short presentation on the Poisippi EMS, and mine isn't nearly as flashy as John's.
Good evening, everybody. It's nice to be back here. It's been a few months. So am I going to use this thing? Good luck. Which button? The arrow? Click for me? I don't want that. Keep trying. Stay on the page that we're on. Don't get ahead of yourselves, please. We've been here a lot lately, Donna. It seems like every other week. We're here for 2 days, meeting with the department heads on many occasions. I've got a phenomenal staff back in our Milwaukee office who've been joining me for all of these meetings. And I would say, Donna, we've done pretty well. And I think the department heads would tell us, I think they've told you that we tried really hard to listen to their needs. And this past week, actually, they made a presentation back to the Building and Grounds Committee. Each of the department heads came up here, as I'm doing tonight, and spoke briefly about their portion of the project. And so that was completely unrehearsed, but I think they did a really nice job. So, I mean, these are action shots of the meetings that we've been having. You recognize names and faces. That's Elizabeth, one of our space planners on the right. Next slide. One of the larger group meetings, we have an ad hoc committee that meets. A lot of the members here are that. And then this past week, we spent a lot of time working with the judge and Melissa on courts, and we'll talk more about that this evening as well. So a lot of interaction, certainly. Going to the next slide. And our discussions tonight really focus exclusively on the campus building where the government center is going to be. As Kurt said, there are other buildings on other sites, but what we're looking for tonight is approval from the concepts related to this site. So I think you'll recognize in the middle of the plan is the L shape, the existing sheriff and jail. To the right of that in the green is the new government center. It's kind of an L shape. You'll see where the main entrance is. I'll point that out in the plans on the next slides. A lot of the new site will be parking to the right. We're exploring the idea and the need to have some additional parking to the property to the east. And I think, Kurt, will you talk at all about that, or has that been a discussion? Okay. There are other buildings on the campus that are being proposed. There's a new sheriff's evidence garage that will be built. There's also sheriff's expansion and emergency operations center, a little blue box on the left of the sheriff's office, and then also a dining room expansion on the existing kitchen. So if you go then to the next slide, we commandeered the drone from the sheriff. Thank you. They did a fly around a couple of weeks ago, and we've cribbed one of the slides off of that just as a point of orientation for you. You'll see that in the next slide where all the trees are, that's where the new building is going to be located. So before Megan, go back just briefly. So you see where the sheriff is, and then the dining room way in the back. And so that kind of helps you orient to what we're talking about. Then you can go to the next slide. Thank you. And now you'll see not only the little buildings off to the west, but also the new building that you're seeing. And it's really made up, as you'll see here in a second, of 3 elements, like 2 office buildings with an atrium space in between. And the entrance to the building is in like the crotch of the 2 buildings right there. Absolutely. Thank you. So then a couple views of what that might look like, more of a getting closer to the building. I would say the building is both modern, but also has elements of tradition. And we did not want to have a design that did not fit into the community. And I think some of the work that we're doing here is a result of a questionnaire, a visual questionnaire we sent out to a lot of the department heads. And I think we're working to match some of the wishes that questionnaire provided. Again, as Kurt mentioned, this is very preliminary schematic design, and as the next phases of the project unfold, there will be refinements that we'll bring back to you and share with you. So the next slide shows then where the entrance is, and then the beginning of the atrium space. It's a 2-story building, glass and some stone and a lot of brick. So that's the kind of the palette that we're talking about. Then if I dive into the floor plans, I'll take a little bit of time here. This is the first floor plan. You'll see where the main entrance is right there, and then the atrium space that runs the length of the building. To the south or the east is ADRC, aging, public health, et cetera. A lot of different departments right there. The gray are some public bathrooms right in the middle. If I cross over to the atrium, to the left, all the general government, county government departments. There are 5 departments that are in that area. Barry's IT is towards the back. He gets some windows. Kind of working my way around the plan. There's a service dock to the back. Building and grounds has some support spaces in the back as well. And then the one important element, of course, is going to be the county boardroom, and that's that. And I'll talk more in greater detail in a second, but conceptually, it's both a boardroom and then a series of 3 separate conference rooms where the walls can be divided and pulled back, that you can have a much larger single room, and you'll see a slide of that here in a minute. One final thing is that at the main entrance, just to the right there is the control point. The intent is to have a single point of security going into the building so that everybody, being public, staff, whomever, deliveries all go through that same single point. And then there will, just to the right of that, will be a large stair that will take people up to the 2nd level. So next slide, you'll start to see what that might look like kind of diagrammatically. You can see the main entrance and then the atrium space and then the various departments that flank that atrium. The atrium is important because, and particularly when you have activities with county board meetings, public events and things like that, to have a lot of public space, a lot of circulation in front of these departments, I think makes the building very functional. And I think you'll appreciate that space when it's there. So then go to the next 2 slides. We're really going to then talk about the county boardroom that I mentioned. So the county board itself is going to be that space. We're sort of suggesting conceptually what the board table might be. We're imagining that it's fixed like you have here. Adding a lot of board members. That's another conversation. No, so we just want to make sure that there's space for that if should happen. But then if you can see these 3 walls that provide then 3 important and separate meeting rooms that departments can have. And I should say that many of the departments have also their own smaller conference spaces within the department, but a lot of them have needs for department-wide meetings. UW Extension has events here, aging, et cetera. And so these rooms will be, I think, used constantly. It's definitely something that you don't have now. And if you then, Megan, go to the next slide. If we then take all of those folding walls and we push them back, now you have an enormous room that's about the same size as the demonstration center downtown, downstairs rather, that room. So you've got a lot of flexibility there. And I think that space is going to be used quite a bit. So that's the boardroom and then the meeting spaces. Then I go up to the 2nd floor. The blue are the courts and the clerk of court. There are 2 jury court rooms and a hearing room. I'll show more of that here in a minute. Then to the right, Matt's area, the DA, Corporation Counsel, et cetera, is in the corner there. And then on the opposite side of the atrium, the open space, is the Health and Human Services. Again, you can see a lot of offices. This is pretty much an office building in many respects. So that's a plan of the 2nd floor. And then the next slide shows kind of geometrically or three-dimensionally what that might look like. And these are all, you know, concept diagrams that we use to help illustrate the design. And you get a better sense of what that atrium space would look like. It's about 30 feet wide in the opening, so it's not huge. We're not talking about a huge Hilton hotel or anything like that. But I think it's appropriately sized for the building and its functions. Let me then, if you put the arrow up where the courtrooms are, there, I'm going to zoom into that here in the next slide. And so here are the two juried courtrooms that were mentioned earlier this evening. I think we talked in the past about a concept called three-way separation. Three-way separation, there are three paths that come together in a courtroom. You have the judge and their staff, you have the prisoner, and then you have the public. And the only place where these three come together will be in the well of the courtroom. The public come from the hallway, the judge will come from their suites in the back, and then this area that's flanking, that's in the middle between the courtrooms, there's an elevator that will bring prisoners up from the basement. There'll be a tunnel that will bring prisoners over from the jail up into that area, their holding cells, and then they go into the courtroom. I recall when we did the study for this project, one of the major considerations or one of the major drivers was security in this building. And if you've ever been here when there have been prisoners walking through the hallway, you'll never see that again in the new courthouse. And that's one of the major considerations for the design of this project. And then finally, the last slide just starts to begin to talk about what the courtroom might look like. So very, very conceptual in nature. Our plan would be going forward that once we have a general idea as to what the courtroom would look like, we will have Samuel's group actually create a mock-up of that courtroom out of styrofoam so that the judge and you all can kind of get a sense as to what that courtroom would look like. And we're talking mostly about the judge's bench and how high it's going to be and all of the things associated with that. So, yeah. We did this in Trempealeau, and you almost could serve court cases in it. I mean, it looks so good. So that is going to be it. I think the last slide is just a thank you. And again, thank you for hiring us to do this project. It's going really well. So Kurt, or questions that you would have? Yes.
I noticed in the drawings, it looks like you have a flat roof concept. Why? Wisconsin, the winters we have, the trouble they've had with flat roofs, and the amount of money that that building's gonna cost, and you're putting a flat roof on it?
So flat roof, it's a common discussion. A lot of things that go. The question. Color, some. I could run the numbers for you if you want. Cost construction.
It's always a good question because it comes up all the time. And I think immediately that it's really not flat. I mean, it does, there's a sizable pitch to the roof so that water can drain to downspouts that would be throughout the middle of the building, the roof, but then there are scuppers along the side as well, should the water come over that way as well. So there's a pitch. It's not dead flat. Any other questions?
Got another one.
Yes. Pardon?
I didn't see anything on there. You have the main floor, the second floor, but nothing with the basement. Is
I'll
there a
ex-
planned
there
basement?
will be a basement, a partial basement. I alluded
A
to
whole
it.
basement?
No, not a whole basement. I alluded to it a moment ago. Maybe Megan, if you could go back.
I know you said there'd be an elevator where the.
Yeah,
tunnel comes
exactly.
across, but
Okay, let's start with that. Can I move? You know the plan pretty well. Okay, so we'll work our way backwards. Okay, so in that little box, there's going to be an elevator right there. It takes you down to the basement, and then it will go west to the back of the building. The arrow, take the hand back there, and then across over there. And then there's a point where we're in line with the jail, and then there'll be a tunnel that'll go under the underground connecting into the jail, and then there'll be an elevator taking us back up. Now that, as we've learned this last week from our regional jail inspector, that corridor has to remain secure. So the only people that can be in that elevator, or rather the elevator and the tunnel, would be correctional officers and prisoners or sheriff's staff. Separate from that, but also in the basement, there will be a part in that area, there'll be a partial basement. Building and Grounds has some needs. We're talking about EOC has some needs in that space. The departments have dead records and the like. So there will be some basement space in the building, but it will not be a full basement. The building it's a 60,000 square foot footprint. That would just be enormous if we tried to make basement space out of all of that. So I'm guessing maybe 10 or 15,000 square feet at the most would be basement, if even that.
Are we gonna have? Right now, I think the.
I just see you had on there that you're gonna have police storage or sheriff's department storage. Wouldn't the basement be an ideal place for that versus another new building?
Well, the.
Can you go back to
Right.
one of the earliest drawings? Yeah.
And then I'm just full of questions tonight, so.
Ask them all. We wanna make sure that you.
The new dining hall expansion, is that separate from the kitchen facility for?
It'll be attached to it. Started that.
Or are you gonna try to compete with the senior center? I'm serious. I mean, they've got a beautiful facility out there. Just a question.
I don't know the.
Guess that's all for right now.
Take that back to my team. And what we
Thank
do
you,
is
John.
we'll actually do a detailed takeoff on the building. Now, the mechanical and electrical systems have yet to be determined, so we'll do some preliminary budgets on options, because we did talk about doing an evaluation on going with geothermal, and I fully intend to do that with the engineers. And the geothermal that we would look at, I want to look at options not only with the new building, but what do we do with some potential retrofits of the existing building? Because I want to know that number and share it with you. Because if you'll recall, that law enforcement center was one that was kind of an energy hog. So let's figure out what we can do there. So those things will be included in the next phase of design, and we're going to have some budgetary numbers for you in this first phase of design. So. All right, so this next one here, we met with Building and Grounds this last week. Henry from our office has been working with Brian and Debbie here to be able to right size the campus that's here. And this is proposed to be in the Poisippi area. We are still looking at multiple land options. We have a handful of them. And what we're doing is evaluating whether they can fit on a parcel. What does the parcel look like in regards to location, in regards to the drive studies that Brian's team has done? What is the investment and cost for infrastructure, whether it be private septic and well, whether there is public opportunities there? So all of those things are being weighed. A site has not been determined yet. We are going to reach out to some landowners and find out if there is interest in wanting to part with some of their properties, and then bring that back to Building and Grounds with some numbers. So we are working on the sites. Nothing has been selected, but there are multiple options that are being explored. So the floor plan that has been developed here has been developed in harmony with Brian and with Debbie. Somewhere along the lines, we decided that we were going to put these two together. And I think that was in the master plan, and that's really what we have here as a model. We did represent or show this floor plan to Building and Grounds last week and got some feedback of things they didn't like and things they wanted to change. Those changes have been made and are represented here. We have not taken this back to Building and Grounds for official approval. I thought it would be good just to bring it to you, since all of you are here anyways. And if you can tell me to price it, I'm just going to go ahead and price it. So what we did in renovation is, from the last time, is we did reduce the warming kitchen. The warming kitchen is over on that left-hand side there. We reduced the size of that from the previous model. The meeting area, or the room and the space that's there, we've reduced that substantially from the last model to be able to get that down closer to program space. We are still a little bit larger than what was in the initial program, but it's not near what the additional square footage was in our first model. The right-hand side is obviously the garages. The garage, we've added an additional bay. We've used some of the layout in regards to programming of what you have in your Hancock Center, and have enhanced that a little bit. So you can see the sleeping quarters that are in there, and the day room, and obviously the utility room and all of the associated components there for the sleeping area. And then we've got the mechanical space between the two areas to separate the occupancies there. The intent is that that mechanical space may grow, or it may be reduced in regards to where the mechanical stuff, mechanical equipment is placed, and we may be able to either make the building smaller, or we might be able to expand some of those other areas in there once we start to finalize what goes in there for equipment. So if you want to go to the next slide. Henry's here has just kind of shown this in different colors. So you can see that the EMS floor plan is that pink that's on the right-hand side. The mechanical space there is what's in the orange. Go to the next slide, which is going to show the dining center. It shows the meeting rooms that are up there, and there's been some discussion about what that meeting room is used for. Is it just for meals? Is it for other meetings? This way it can be used as a multi-purpose. again, the furniture layouts in this document and the furniture layouts in John's are only representing the spaces. We're not picking furniture at this point. We're just giving you it as an idea of how many people could be in the space. So that is the layout for the dining center. You can go to the next slide, and we changed some of the roof lines. So the roof lines before were a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for?
Modern.
This is poison.
Yeah. So one of the elements that we talked to building and grounds, kind of like what John did, is we wanted to make sure that this fits in your community. And we had some roof lines that were just a little bit more contemporary, I would say. And the feedback that we got is let's get back to gables. So this is what the adjustment looks like. There was a reconfiguration of the dining center, so that's changed a little bit, but you can see the roof lines that are there. And based on the lot, Henry has actually got a couple different ways that this could be tweaked to be able to fit on different lot shapes. So I don't want you to think that this is exactly what it will look like if we find a lot that is perfect in other scenarios, but it will not allow for that long building to be able to work there. He's got some other ways that he can tweak that, but still give you the same program space that's there. So, and then this is just another image that's there, but I do agree. I think that this is closer to what the building and grounds wanted to see. Henry sent this to me, the day or two afterwards, and I thought that he kind of captured what we got from feedback from building and grounds. So,
how did the EMS people enter it? In the back? I don't see any door for them.
yeah, there's a door in the back there, and then the garage that passes through their garage doors, and then there's a service door on the back side there. Yeah. So what we're planning for this one, it would be a wood construction. This would be a light commercial building, and we're looking at wood construction. I am going to have my team price it out in a light commercial with steel stud construction because with what the wood prices have been, we've been able to see that there has been a differential. Lumber has come down. It's not pre-pandemic. I don't know that it'll ever be that again. But we will give you an option both ways so that you can make that determination as to the construction type and the pros and cons of each one of them as we move forward. So any thoughts on that? Comments, questions?
Everybody. Okay,
I'm sorry, I should have had done it.
that's right.
I represent that area and a lot of people are concerned and wondering where the site is going to be. And I guess I'm just wondering who's going to make the decision on the site.
It won't be me. I intend to bring that back to building and grounds. And I guess we'll leave that to building and grounds as to whether they bring that back to the full board. But I can tell you right now that one of the things that's unique about a project like this, when you're looking to find a location, everybody feels that they have the exact right location and the exact right option. And the only way that we can consistently make a decision is if we weigh all the pros and cons of all of them and navigate through that so that there is some reasoning behind how that decision is made. One of the most important factors that I've heard from the staff, and I think it would be good to communicate that to your constituents, is that the response time to those that actually need the ambulance should be a very high priority. And that's something to consider, because if you're the one that is waiting for that siren to come, and if it means that it's 3 miles closer to you and that's life or death, there's a pretty weighty element to that rather than, hey, this parcel would make some sense. So I only say that because we do need to make sure that we prioritize those decisions and we weigh them. But the decision will come back to you as a group. We'll start with building and grounds, and then you guys can determine whether that comes back to the full board or how that decision is made. So
if somebody has some ideas, they should go to buildings and grounds.
absolutely. And then you can give them to me if you want. Right now, what we're doing is we're getting some property options. And Henry has taken multiple locations and he's kind of laying them out of whether they fit on parcels or not. But if you have some ideas, you can let building and grounds know, you can let me know, then we can do an evaluation on that. There's another element that you may see a piece of property and that's just perfect, and the owner may not want to part with it. So there's that element in there as well, or they may want to part with it for a good chunk of change. And those are all things you got to weigh. So. Great
Larry, we have been getting some calls of concerning property in the Poisey area, and we have passed those on to Kurt, so he will evaluate them and see what's going on.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but
Couple questions. Debbie had a plan. She was involved in this.
Yep.
And I want to make sure she was involved in the final decision on.
So there has not been a final decision. Debbie did respond in an email with some of her comments. And before we finalize anything that's going to be formalized and bid out, we will make sure that she's in agreement with what we have. So right now we're kind of in flux. She's seen it, but we haven't met collectively to say, hey, this meets all the needs that Debbie has. But we did pull back on her square footage at the last meeting. I'll be the first to admit that. But it was budget driven, and then also to make sure that it still provides her with the space that she needs. So we'll definitely keep her engaged.
Also, what does this need for acreage when you consider, okay, how many people might be there at the most? What are you gonna need for parking?
Right now, we're targeting 3 to 4 acres. We can squeeze it on a little less than that, but we don't know that that makes the best decision long-range planning. So right now, we've been thinking 3 to 4 acres is a good size. Now, a lot of that is determined on the shape. You know, so if we have a real long, skinny 4 acres, that's not going to work. But the 3 to 4 acres is something that is in that ballpark of size.
Because we have been, I don't know, necessarily offered, but suggested a site, but I think there's only 1 acre there, so that would.
That would be
pretty
too
much
small.
eliminate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing we need to consider is that by the time we place the building on the acreage, we also have to give parking. We also have to have distances between what we do with the sanitary and the water if we are dealing with private utilities there. So there's a lot that goes into that requires a little bit more acreage.
Okay.
And then long-range plan, if you want to have some expanse there, I'm not saying it's got to be a large parcel, but at least have something there that gives you some flexibility in the future. So,
Thank you.
yep. Yeah.
I'm on the Emergency Services Committee.
Yep.
This is new to me that they're gonna put a double garage there. Why did that come about versus the one?
The double garage has always been in that Poisey program. I don't know where that began from, but it was in our initial master plan. So I would have to get that answer from Brian. I don't know when that started, but it was had always been in there.
Hancock just has one, correct?
Yes, correct.
You know, it's very tight in there. That mistake that was made that
Mhm.
should have been a double.
Yes.
For 2 vehicles or just a bigger garage?
Well, we always thought over in Adam or something like that. Or whatever.
They got
have more
4-wheel,
room.
they got 4-wheel drives now, they don't need no garage.
Snowmobile?
Well, how come this don't have a flat roof then? I'm just.
It's a great
talking about
question.
Budget constraints and that, and then you've got, the way it appears, enough for 2 full-size ambulances there.
There it is. That's how it's sized.
I
Where-
could see going bigger, like Mark said, if it's tight at Hancock, make it bigger, but I don't know if we can afford 2 ambulances in Hancock, Poisey, and the ones that we have here in Watoma.
I don't think, Kurt, if instruction sets me right here, I don't think you're looking at a big expense going from a bigger bay and
No.
going to 2 bay. I don't think it's gonna be a big budget number, Bob. You know.
Not a
Could
bill-
be, and you could ask her
I'm
to, I
not a
tell you
bill-
what a single.
I can definitely give you what the premium would be that we're paying for a second bay, but I'm sure that Brian would have information for you as to why that program was identified that way. But I do know that from the beginning, they have talked about a double bay there, and I don't know the history behind that. I'm sorry, I don't, but I can get that for you from Brian.
I believe that was always on the plan, the master plan. Isn't Wild Rose a double bay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Wild Roses. And I think we've found that it was a mistake to do just a single bay in Hancock.
Yes, that's been discussed at
Yeah.
length that we messed up there.
It's almost, it's tight, very tight.
Mhm.
Weren't they planning a new one in Watoma also?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we've been focusing on Poisippi because it's unique with the dining center to get that nailed down. Once we get the footprint nailed down of this one, we can start working on the Watoma one right away too. So our schedule is the intent to get the both EMS buildings started yet this year and start a footing and foundation plan for the government center as well. Highway would be something that we would start in spring. And the highway we actually have started. I should have given you an update on that. The highway, we've actually done some tours. We're going to schedule a couple of more to go look at some other highway shops. We've got a preliminary floor plan that has been run past the commissioner. Has not been in front of the entire committee yet, but we will do that. And then when we get a floor plan that is something that the commissioner is in agreement with, and the committee will bring it back to you for some review. But it's lagging behind these because we've prioritized these on the schedule. So.
Yeah, I think it's always been the plan to do Poisippi or get that started as soon as possible.
Yep.
There's a real need over there, so
Yep.
that was the plan.
Yeah.
I received a letter from constituent, I think it is in Poisippi, and they said that there's an existing building that may go up for sale that might suit that purpose. Are you aware of that?
I got that. I think that's the one that was shared with me, and I've got Henry working on that as well.
Okay.
I think from what we saw, it would be more dining center, and the size of the site would not lend itself to a good location for EMS. So then we would be talking about separating it, but we'll do an evaluation on that as well.
Okay.
So, yep. Yeah, if you get them, please don't wait for a meeting. Get it to me because we're working on it right now. If something comes up, and we'll work on those options.
I think if you get it to Megan, she'll
Yeah,
get
that'd be
it to
great.
Kurt right away.
Sorry to go so long, but we wanted to show you what we've been doing. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, like has been mentioned. And I'm happy with the progress that's been made here. I do want to echo what John said. Working with all of your department heads has been extremely fun. We got a good group of people here. They're making decisions that are cost conscious and something that's going to be able to work well into the future. So it's been a good time. So.
And
Questions?
I've sat in on quite a few of those meetings, and they are listening to our department heads and, taking everything into consideration. So I think we did a good job when we chose our Samuels Group and Venture Architects.
No, it's going to be a great job. It's been fun. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Kurt.
Yep.
Okay, next we're going to have the discussion and possible motion action item on the schematic design approval, subject to budget confirmation. Motion by Bonfiglio. Do we have a second? Second by Jarvis to approve. Any questions or comments?
What are we approving? This is what was presented to us?
Yes, the schematic design and putting price to it now.
All you're approving is for us to take this to my team and put together a budget for these two projects, the government center and the Poisippi component. And then we're going to come back. It's not a commitment of the exact details, but it's basically, hey, what does that thing cost? And then I'll come back and then we can make some adjustments. So.
Any other questions? All right, we need a voice vote on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. And thanks again for your presentation. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Next, we have consideration of possible action on the following resolutions and ordinance. First, we have a resolution number 38-07-21, a resolution authorizing broadband expansion grant application partnership with Hilbert Communications LLC.
Mr. Schneider was going to be here tonight, but I guess he didn't make it. So Hilbert Communications is also Bug Tussle. You might know them by that. What they are doing is they are applying for a grant to expand infrastructure. I think they're working on trying to get 10 counties involved. And what they are going to do is lay fiber in the various counties to try to, there'll be additional towers as well to be able to get broadband out into the rural areas. What they're looking for from us is to agree that as part of their grant process, they can say that Waushara County is partnering with them and that we have a need for broadband and are supportive of their grant. So it's not a commitment for a set amount of dollars or anything like that. It's just agreeing with the concept. We do have an agreement with them already where we have 3 towers, they have 3 towers. There's some talk as part of this plan that maybe fiber could be ran to all 6 towers to get some redundancy in some of our coverage. It's, I'm not asking for money. They're not asking for money. They're asking if they can include us in their grant application as a partner to expand broadband in rural areas.
We have a motion by Bonfiglio. Do we have a second? A second by Mr. Lauer. Do you have any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that is passed by voice vote. Now we have resolution number 39-07-21, a resolution reclassifying certain positions in the Department of Human Services. Motion by Mr. Bonfiglio. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Tim. Do you have any questions? Okay, this will be a roll call vote. Okay, Mr. Cap, okay. Okay, this motion passes by majority vote. Next, we have our ordinance number 666, an ordinance amending Waushara County zoning maps pursuant to the authority granted in Chapter 58, Waushara County Code, Zone Change, J&J Hess LLC, Town of Poisippi. We have a motion by Mr. Bonfiglio. And a second by Mr. Lauer. Do you have any questions?
I'm kind of curious if someone, when someone makes a motion, does it lock everyone else out?
Somebody make the motion.
I guess what I'm saying is if multiple people make a motion, wouldn't that second person be the second? That's all I'm curious.
Yeah. I would think that if someone else, that would be the second.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
would guess.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mine isn't even working, so.
I need
It's
it.
had second on it all night, no place to motion. Before I can even look at it, Brandon's punching buttons. Pardon?
That's not the- we were having. Go back to that.
They'd still have to state their motion. They'd still have to state their motion.
Correct.
Yeah.
That was had a chance.
Problem is if somebody, the second person who makes a motion may not be making the same motion.
But again, if you'd have to state your motion and then the person who was,
So that's what we've been
Was-
doing. But if you do it the other way, that the second person who hits the motion is a second to it.
Irregardless.
They may not be having the same
irregardless, but
motion.
you'd still have to ask this person who seconded if they agreed with the motion. Correct?
How does it do that? It don't.
No, I mean, the chair would have to identify.
And I would think that.
What if your fingers are slower and your motion is opposite of what Mr. Bonifiglio says?
Then you'd amend. Or you,
I'll just say what I'm motioning for, because I'm probably gonna be first.
you can push to amend it too. If you have a different one, Bob, you
If
could,
your computer works, you can.
well, then you raise your hand and say, my
Bob,
computer's working, but I
only
want to
thing
amend
you
it.
do is let Megan know that your computer is not working and
It hasn't worked all night.
Stuck on.
I did that and it comes up and Brandon's motion and Jerry's does, but mine's froze on second. That's all I've got. Second and request to speak.
all right, for this motion right now, we have a motion by Bonfiglio and a second by Mr. Lauer. Are there any questions or comments concerning ordinance number 666? All right, all in favor,
Aye.
opposed, same sign. Okay, next we have board suggestions for future agenda items, and we are going to be meeting at the Saxville Town Hall. We changed that so that we could do the presentation here of the building. So we changed it to next month meeting at the Saxville Town Hall.
And these computers will be working there also.
Good luck.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Eckstein to adjourn. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Tim. We are adjourned. Yes, oh, I'm sorry. Anyone who has been vaccinated, the Commission on Aging has asked to work with, or asked Mary to work with them, and they want to take a photo of anyone who has been vaccinated and wants to promote vaccination in this county. We're running way behind. Mary can explain.
Yeah, we are like, of all counties in the state of Wisconsin, bottom index. And Debbie is trying to get some, we call you very important people. Have their photo taken, and to promote having vaccination are kind of on the fence. Well, vaccinated to be safe. You're in favor of it, would like your photo taken, I'd like to do it. If you're not, I understand.
We will do as many as we can. Brandon, didn't they make you get a vaccination when you went to Fort McCoy?
We had a
They did?
public hearing
Huh?
Thursday morning.
Oh, do you?
I didn't want to, I did.
Right with me.
I'll come give you your shot. Okay, let's go, guys. Chop, chop. I'll do it.
That person has a heart problem.
I know how to say it. I talked to him. He was supposed to give me numbers. So I was gonna ask. I think. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. There definitely is a need.
And even if they don't use the whole thing, if they just use some of it, or, the property or whatever. Won't be able to do anything with it unless the other stuff is on. Yeah, Everett wasn't letting him push any motions either. It was wasn't showing up.
Coming in.
When you
Larry,
can,
coming
when
in.
you hear next,
We have the vaccine.
yeah, let's have him play on that, and I'll see, cause I'll have to get Megan to fire hers up. Yeah. That meeting.
Can I put you in?
Oh, sure. Next month is second.
There you go.
Yeah, we want to try to get people to come in a little early for next week, to get connected. We have a router that we're gonna. Connected. It's gonna take a minute to get it on.
All right. No, my own face. I gotta get together like.
I don't know if it works. The way it's supposed to.
Several chances. Oh,
When
okay.
you got two people in the same
Thank
room,
you
it's
so
just
much.
talking and text.
Maybe he fixed it while we were. I changed it. What it is. You. Yeah. Set up the other. For presentation. Presentation. Yeah, yeah, I saw that. I said, I hit him with. They had those. Going forward, we need to. Yeah, we're gonna. They tell me.